All right, we're live.
We are live for Endgame Fantasy Football, 2 hours before kickoff. Hopefully, everybody who's online right now realizes it's 2 hours before kickoff. Hopefully, you fell back last night, got an extra hour of sleep. Some of us might have needed it after Halloween. Don't know how many parties there were going on, but from what I gathered, looking around my area, quite a few. Or you were up late with your kids, whatever the case may be. That's over. It's November 1st. You're ready for more football because it's Sunday. So we're here to help you with the latest and the greatest news. There's a lot, always things that change last minute. You talk about big name wide receivers that you thought you had to keep on your bench, and all of a sudden they're playing, and then vice versa. So we'll get right to that. Start with the obvious names that you need to know about, the big names that are out, guys that you absolutely need to get out of your lineup if for some reason you still have them in. So let's start with that. So you probably already knew, but Joe Mixon is officially out. That means we get a second week of Gio Bernard in the starting role, which is actually pretty good for a lot of us who picked him up. Even if you weren't the Mixon owner in your league, you scooped up Bernard as an insurance policy to spike the Mixon owner, or because you needed a running back and he was promising. So another week of Gio Bernard. You know that in this landscape, normally that would be kind of a fringe starter. Well, with every other running back who matters hurt, he's basically an RB2, like solid locked in. I have him top 15 again this weekend. That's just how running back is these days. Okay, so Aaron Jones is also again out, which is odd because last week it was like a game time decision, and he'll probably play, but he didn't want to push it. And now all of a sudden it's the second straight week he's not even playing. So maybe that injury a little more serious than either they thought or they let on. But no Aaron Jones. That means again Jamal Williams. Now Jamal Williams is probably somebody you're going to start in most leagues. The matchup isn't as tasty as it was last week. I mean, it was the ideal, perfect matchup against Houston. And he didn't have a monster game per se, but he had nice stats. This isn't quite as good as far as Minnesota's run defense, but you've got to start him if you got him, especially if you're the Jones owner. Miles Sanders, not a big surprise. He's still out. Don't know exactly how many weeks he'll be out with that knee, but this will be 2 weeks. So Boston Scott, and again, he's always a little more fringy and not as solid as a guy like Jamal Williams or a vet like Gio Bernard. But it's Dallas, and Chris and I, we talked about this, in our start sit for a running back must start. Boston Scott is a must start because he's going against Dallas. Chris, I think that pretty much holds true that if you're playing anybody against Dallas these days, you roll them out there. I mean, if you can.
Yeah, definitely. And but as far as the three running backs you just talked about, the three backup running backs, I'd probably rank them Williams, Scott, Bernard. Personally, we've just seen Jamal Williams. I mean, he got like 90% of the snaps last week, and AJ Dillon, AJ Dillon got 5 whopping touches. And I still see people saying, "Oh, it's AJ Dillon week again." Like, oh, stop it. Plus, I think he got like 5 or 3 goal line carries, so he's getting pretty much everything. So I'd rank him 1, Boston Scott 2. Like you said, the only reason I have Scott lower than Williams, even though it's a better matchup, is because Scott I can't count on to get as many touches as Jamal Williams. Like they will not. There's no guarantee he's going to get 20 touches. They'll give Jamal Williams the ball 20 times, whether it's through the passing game or through the ground. He'll get the ball 20 times. Can't trust that with Scott. Same with Gio. He's kind of in that same Scott situation. Can't trust that he's going to get 20 touches, but they should be, high quality touches. And I agree. I have him like top 15.
Yeah, and I think the people at this point who are still saying after last week, AJ Dillon, this is the time. This is, either it's because they drafted him in Dynasty and they're really hoping that he breaks out so they, see that value skyrocket, or they're Packers fans or Boston College fans. I don't know. But he's not going to be used this year. It doesn't look like, unless Jones happens to be out for an extended time, and they have no choice but to give him work. But no, don't start AJ Dillon this week. And then another name that I don't know how much this matters, but Mark Ingram, if you were still starting him for some reason, he's out. And so you would like to say, well, that's good. Actually good from a fantasy standpoint. It clears up that backfield because then you have just Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, a lot of huge J.K. Dobbins fans thinking this might be his chance. And it would be, except that it's the Steelers. The Steelers, of course, one of the toughest run defenses in the entire league. So not a great matchup for them in that sense. You can't expect big things from Dobbins. Dobbins is definitely startable. The only saving grace maybe is the fact that, Dobbins is going to get now all the receptions out of the backfield because Gus Edwards doesn't do that. And it's not like it's just going to be Edwards, even though he's the bigger back, the short yardage back, that he'll get the goal line touches. But no, they actually have been giving Dobbins some red zone work. So, I mean, how do you feel about Dobbins this week? Because, again, really bad matchup. But maybe we'll see instead of 50-50, it might be 60-40. Maybe he gets a little bit more of the work.
Yeah, I like both him and Gus Edwards as wait and sees, because I could see either one of these guys taking control of the backfield, to be honest, because we have seen recently, even when Ingram was out there, that Gus Edwards was actually getting the majority of the snaps. And when I say the majority, we're talking like 35, 30, like you know what I mean? We're not whatever it is. Like, we're not talking about huge differences here. So I could see either one of these guys. So I'd be happy if I had either one. Dobbins does offer more in the passing game, and I know we always like the shiny new toys, the rookies. So everybody thinks it's going to be Dobbins, but if you haven't been paying attention, Gus Edwards has been getting more of the work and has looked pretty good. And I know we think Gus Edwards, he's boring. He's been here before. We don't want to hear about Gus Edwards, but sometimes that's what happens. So I think both these guys are a wait and see today. I could see either one breaking out of this backfield by the end of the day.
Yeah, the thing with, I mean, if there is kind of a floor here, Dobbins has it just because he should catch a couple of passes. Edwards won't. So if he gets shut down, he runs the ball 15 times and only gets, 36 yards, he did nothing for you. So there's definitely the risk there, but he could also save your day with a touchdown. So as far as wide receivers who are out, Michael Thomas, did you really think he was going to play? Of course not. We had some hope midweek, but we already know, Chris, hope is just not. It's not the answer.
No.
Jamison Crowder, your boy, out again. Unfortunate. So fire up Denzel Mims, I guess, because Rashad Perriman also out. If you really need to start a jet, that it would have to be Mims. Julian Edelman, we see now out. Who knows how long? Could be a season. Some people saying he's going to retire. I think it's a little premature, but the Patriots are just a mess. So if you look for our trade deadline video, which is going to come out probably tomorrow, then talk about the Patriots and some of the moves they could make. Who knows? Could be a fire sale there, but yeah, bench Edelman, don't start any of the receivers. Oh yeah, N'Keal Harry also out. So going to be a tough time there. Sammy Watkins, you probably weren't playing him anyways, but he is out. And then Deebo Samuel, no surprise, also out. I'm big on Brandon Ayuk this week, maybe a little too big, but that's Seattle secondary. I mean, it's hard not to be excited about them. I also don't mind. I know it's become kind of a trendy sleeper pick for this week, but Kendrick Bourne, he's been getting targets, right? I mean, either of these guys could be startable.
Yeah, here we go. Here's another situation where, sure, Kendrick Bourne certainly could get targets and he could certainly get receptions. And I've seen people even ask the question, like, are we really sure that it's not going to be Kendrick Bourne instead of Brandon Ayuk? Maybe it could be. But would you rather roll with the guy who's been involved every game he's played, you know what I mean, and has clearly has a major role in the offense, or the guy who might have a role in the offense because of injuries when you don't really know? And it's crazy to me that people, want to say Bourne will be the guy over Ayuk. I mean, look, anything's possible. It's football. We don't know what these coaches have planned. But when you're banking on stuff, to me, that's like in poker when, you have like one card to win your hand and you say, screw it, I'm going to go all in because maybe it'll be this card. Like, just play the guy, Ayuk, that we know is involved in the offense and gets to work. If you're desperate and you're in a deep league and you don't have better options, sure, Bourne makes for a kind of a, possible play. He definitely should be in for more work, but don't do something crazy like play him over Brandon Ayuk because, you hear these people talk about Bourne as a sleeper.
Yeah, I wouldn't go Bourne over Ayuk. Like you said, it is possible. With Kyle Shanahan, you really never know. Same with the backfield. I don't even want to talk about it. Tevin Coleman maybe will play. And so then JaMychal Hasty, all those people who thought he was a great play this week, forget it. I'm sure we'll get questions about that, and we'll see. So Tevin Coleman, speaking of who's in, looks like he's in. How many touches will he get? Will it be 0? Will it be 2? Will it be 28? Don't ask me. It's Kyle Shanahan, so who knows? But again, we'll probably talk a little bit more of that later. Dalvin Cook, thankfully, is in. So you definitely fire him up. I talked about this. I have him as a must start this week in our video from a couple days ago. He's in. I don't care if he's 50% of his normal snaps. You play him, right? And then Philip Lindsay's in. That kind of kills some of the Gordon revenge game, run all over the Chargers vibe. I don't know that it'll go back to a strict split like it was before, but it definitely isn't all Gordon's backfield. So you got to keep that in mind. Of course, you're still starting Gordon. Are you starting Lindsay? I don't know. Probably not. But yeah, just be aware Lindsay is in. He is playable. And then Chris Carson, game time decision, true game time decision, 50-50. This backfield is, talk about a mess. Carlos Hyde looked like he was going to be a good start, and then he went from being the starter to being doubtful, and so he's probably not going to play, but Chris Carson might play. So if you had to hide in any of your lineups, get him out, right? He's doubtful, and Chris Carson is really, truly questionable. I mean, I think they're literally just going to flip a coin and see what happens. So you want to put him in your lineup, I guess that's, good luck. All right, before we get to our questions, I'm sure we got some start-to-sit questions. Chris, the weather is going to be a big factor today. And I don't know if we have the latest from the Weather Channel, but we do have some reports from earlier in the week, and I think you've probably updated this. What are the games that are going to be most affected that people should know about?
Yeah, I updated this morning. So this is the latest. So we have 4 games that have some concern with wind. And by the way, when it comes to weather, snow and rain and that, I feel like in cold especially gets way overblown. But wind is a big factor. Wind is certainly a factor that can impact the games. So Tennessee, Cincinnati is going to see sustained winds around 20 miles per hour with gusts over 30 miles per hour. So definitely not good if you have a kicker in that game, right? Kicking's usually the one that gets affected the most by wind for obvious reasons. Passing game also, but not as much as you'd think. It's the short intermediate stuff. That wind's not really going to affect it too badly. It's more the deep balls, but something to think about there. New England, Buffalo, that's going to have sustained winds, also around 20 miles per hour with gusts over 30. So same thing there. Las Vegas, Cleveland, we're going to see sustained winds in the 25 to 30 mile per hour range with gusts around 45 miles per hour. So this is one game where I am a little concerned about the passing. Obviously, you don't want either of these kickers. You don't want either kicker. I don't know if either of these kickers are even viable. I don't really play kickers. But this is one where I would knock down the passing game slightly just because, those are huge wind numbers, right? And then Minnesota, Green Bay, sustained winds 25 miles per hour with gusts around 40 miles per hour. But as the game goes on, that should come down a little bit. So a slight downgrade there, but not as much as the Las Vegas Cleveland game. That's the one that's really going to be impacted.
Yeah, and like you said, kicking, obviously, if you're playing league with kickers, unlike our flex league where we just got rid of that, that's one consideration. Also, really with the wind, like you said, that's more of a factor than snow. Like last week, people talking about snow with the Kansas City Buffalo game. Kansas City did just fine. So a lot of these teams, especially up north, they're used to playing in the snow. So I wouldn't discount that unless it's really, really heavy and visibility is a factor. But the wind, the kicking, but also the deep passing game. So, I think about it like Las Vegas, Cleveland, you have 25 mile per hour winds. So a guy like maybe Henry Ruggs, that would affect him because the chances of him, catching a bomb and, taking it to the house, that affects it. I honestly liked him kind of as a sleeper this week. Because of that secondary, I knocked him down a couple of pegs. I did because of this weather. Tennessee, Cincinnati, they don't really have necessarily players that do that. I don't think there's any player in particular I affected, my rankings. I maybe knocked Burrow down a little bit because I thought, okay, they'll be just a little more conservative, but he's still going to have to pass the ball a ton. So just keep that in mind. Maybe prefer the ground game a little bit more in games like this, and maybe just discount the passing game a little bit. And then New England really doesn't have a passing game. So that's why I love James White in that game. And then, everything else, I wouldn't shift too dramatically. You're not going to bench Stephon Diggs because, there's wind in that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
All within reason. All right. This is the time where we start answering questions. I assume we do have a couple of questions. Had a lot last week. So thanks to everybody who's leaving those comments and questions here. That's why we're here, guys, is to help you out. So Chris, who we got first?
Yeah, and guys, just a reminder with questions when you're asking, please, especially if you're asking between different positions. Well, even if you're asking between the same positions, please specify if it's PPR, non-PPR, because that does make a difference. All right, so our first question, and this will be a fun one. Kevin Karki asks, which Seattle running back will get majority of the work?
Who's going to be on the field?
Like we don't need to start off with like a softball, a soft pitch, right? It's like coming right out with the hard cutter in on the hands. Are you impressed with my baseball analogy, by the way?
That's good. That's good. A cut fastball in on the. That's good.
In on the hands. That's
how we're baseball fan.
That's how we're starting this AB. A cutter in on the hands right off the bat.
There you go. Off the bat. Okay, so here's honestly what we know, officially what we've been told. Hyde is doubtful. Okay, and it was a hamstring issue. Don't play Hyde. Bench him. Just don't. Okay, so he's probably not going to play. Even if he does, you don't want him in your lineup. So no Hyde. Travis Homer was also questionable all week. Even if he played, he would get a couple of touches that didn't mean anything. So you don't even think about him. Chris Carson is what they're saying is 50-50. Like they're really going to wait up until kickoff to decide. So it's just a risk reward here, right? If he plays, he's the guy, and that's it. You don't think about anybody else. If he doesn't play, the only other even possible pivot is DJ Dallas. Do you want to start DJ Dallas against San Francisco? Going to go with no on that one. I love DJ Dallas and Travis Homer. You can see, right? Fan of the U. Okay, so I love me some DJ Dallas, going against, Pitt last year, but not so much against the Niners. So here's the bottom line. If Carson plays, then yeah, you play him. If he doesn't, then you quickly pivot to somebody else that you have in the afternoon game, because it's a late afternoon game. So you better have somebody else that you can put in your lineup that is available right at that time.
Yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't play any of these guys, even if Carson is a go. And look, we've seen Carson play through all kinds of injuries and be effective. But this seems crazy to me. This was supposed to be like a week-to-week injury, and now he might be good to go in the very next game. And like you said, it's the San Fran defense. If Carson doesn't go, then yeah, I think Travis Homer trended towards being able to play. I think he got a limited practice in Friday. Do I expect a lot from Travis Homer? No. But he'll probably be the guy with DJ Dallas. The thing with DJ Dallas is he's the only healthy running back, but I think he's only got 4 touches on the entire season. So it's not like – we don't know what we're going to get there. So to me, against San Francisco, just stay away from this backfield if at all possible.
Yeah, it is a calculated risk if you play Carson, because you're right. He might be on a pitch count. More baseball for you. He might be ineffective. And even if he's, not feeling the effects of the injury, it's San Francisco's defense is pretty good still, even with all their injuries. So it's a risk. And who would you pivot to is the question, though, if you're waiting till that afternoon game. I don't see any good options, honestly. That's the only reason I might say, well, stick with Carson, because who are you going to switch out at the last second? One of the San Francisco running backs? Tevin Coleman, you're going to trust him? I don't think so. JaMycal Hasty? Who knows? Latavius Murray against Chicago? No. So there's just not very many good options at running back. So
yeah, I agree. Just avoid that situation if at all possible. Just avoid it. All right, Big Pump asks, this is actually like a good one for you. Thoughts on Cam Akers rest of season?
Oh God, this is just for me. I know whoever's watching here, Okay, so look, it's not his fault. It is Sean McVay, and I will, just like I say, avoid San Francisco's running backs this season. I'm going to avoid the Rams running backs until Sean McVay either switches teams, gets fired, because he's one of those guys who likes to, jerk us around. Of course, us in fantasy world, he does it on purpose. No, but either he's still hurt or McVay is just, I don't know what he's doing. Honestly, I love Cam Akers as a player. I think if he landed in another spot, he could already be competing for Rookie of the Year, but you just can't trust it, honestly. I have him as a stash, right? To answer the question, I'm stashing him. I'm not cutting him unless I have to, right? If you're in a shallow league and you need the spot, then yeah, you have to cut him because he's not playing. He's just not getting the ball at all. And Darrell Henderson has actually looked pretty good, but I'm trying to stash him because he's a Henderson injury away from becoming very relevant. So if you can afford it, stash him. And if not, he's cuttable.
Yeah, this is too bad. because if you remember back to early in the season, he was getting plenty of touches. He was even the starter. Then he got that rib injury, and that was kind of when everything went south. And now they only put him in the game when it's like garbage time and the game's over, and they throw him out there. Okay, go out there, get some run. It's like, oh man. So I agree with you. If you're in a shallow league, you got to cut him. He's not getting you anything. If you're in a deeper league, yeah, stash him. I think he could still come on as the season goes.
And that's what the frustrating thing is. You can't just drop him because he, like I said, one injury away, or Malcolm Brown gets injured. All of a sudden, he's in a timeshare and he looks better. All of a sudden, he's a starter. I mean, you just don't know because they are actually committing to the run. The Rams are running the ball quite a bit with whoever they have out there. So,
yeah. All right. I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Kier Patel asks, between Diggs, Boyd, and Connor, who should I start? So he needs one wide receiver and one flex in PPR between Diggs, Boyd, and Connor. Ooh, man, those are some good choices.
All good choices. So that's the good thing. Just talked about, okay, here's the thing with Diggs. You got the Patriots defense and you got the weather, but you really don't need to worry about the weather as far as him. And then you don't have to worry about Stephon Gilmore anymore. And so then that secondary really is not too intimidating because they've actually been giving up a decent amount of points to wide receivers this year anyways. So I think you stick with Diggs. And Boyd, Boyd is pretty good. I would probably, did you say it was full PPR?
Yeah, full PPR.
I would probably lean toward Boyd.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. It's tough for me to bench Connor, but they are going against Baltimore. Right. But he's getting all the touches there in Pittsburgh. I like Boyd a lot this week in that matchup. I like all the Cincinnati receivers, so I think you got to start Boyd. I am a little nervous about Diggs with the win, but not against New England. I tweeted this out yesterday that with no Gilmore, this is actually a pretty good matchup for the receivers for the whole passing game. It's like a sneaky, no one's really talking about it, but it's sneaky good. That win does worry me a tad, but I think I agree with you. I think a full PPR, I'm going to go Diggs and Boyd just because Connor has that Baltimore matchup. If he was in a different matchup, it'd probably be Connor, but against Baltimore, I'd rather just have the wide receivers who are both in really good spots this week.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The matchup's just better for the receivers.
All right, big pump again. Should I start Le'Veon Bell this week? Well, I mean, what are your other options? I do like Bell. I do really like Bell this week. I think it's KC, so they're probably going to run the ball a lot because they're going to probably be in the lead. And I do feel like Kansas City is going to make a conscious effort to get Bell more involved because it is the Jets. I do feel like this may be the week where he out-touches Clyde Edwards-Helaire just because the Chiefs make a conscious decision. We're going to get Bell a bunch of touches against his former team. I could be wrong on that, right? I mean, they may not. They may say, hey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is our better player. We're going to get him the ball more. But I do feel like he's going to have lots of opportunity in this game, and it's a good matchup. So, I mean, obviously, though, it depends what your other options are, but I do like Bell this week.
Yeah. Can you start Bell? Definitely. I think I snuck him up as high as 21 on my running back rankings, which may be a little generous. But again, this is the game they're going to use him. I mean, they are. So, yeah, I'd say, and actually, looking at it, I'm barely above the expert consensus ranking here. Fantasy Pros, they got him 22. I'm right there. So if you consider he's a possible top 20 running back, yeah, you can definitely start him, but I wouldn't start him over some of the guys we already mentioned, like Boston Scott, Jamal Williams, Gio Bernard. I wouldn't start him over them because they're guaranteed more touches.
Yeah, and I think right in that, I've talked about it a few times now. I think rest of the season, Edwards-Helaire is going to fall in that like 15 to 20 range, and Bell's going to fall in that 20 to 25 range. Because I do think they're going to give Bell, even beyond this week, I do think they're going to give Bell a decent amount of touches. I don't think they brought him in. I mean, we saw in his first game, I think he only had 4 less touches than Edwards-Helaire. So they obviously want to get him involved. So I agree. I think 21, ranking him 21 is more than fair. And I definitely think he could exceed that just because, again, it's the Jets. The Chiefs should be blowing them out, right? And they may just say, like, you know what? It's your old team. Let's make you happy. Go out there, score a touchdown. You know what I mean? Run for 100 yards against them, whatever. Right? It's cool.
And well, let's not forget the fact that, just objectively speaking, forget the revenge game thing. He's going against the Jets. He should have no problem putting up points. So,
yeah, and that's the other thing. Game script should be in his favor. Game script should be in their favor to where the Chiefs could say, okay, we're up 21 points midway through the third quarter. Edwards-Helaire, take your helmet off. Bell, finish the game out, right out, against your old team. It's cool. We're going to win this game. So I definitely think that could happen.
Yeah.
All right, big pump again. Oh, okay, so he clarified. So his options are Bell or Mike Evans. So here we go. Do you start Le'Veon Bell or Mike Evans? Full PPR.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Mike Evans, a player we're hoping not to have to answer questions about. Yeah, it would be tough for me to honestly to bench Mike Evans. I know that everyone's kind of tired of Mike Evans and frustrated. And, I even said on it that this week, it could be a disappointing week because we know he's 80% healthy, supposedly. He's going against James Bradbury, who has been shutting people down. And I mean, he hasn't looked like himself, but with Godwin out, it's just hard not to start him. You know what I mean? So I would rather take a chance on a big game by Evans, than Bell, because I guess Bell is I don't even know. Is Bell a safer play?
This is crazy. Because if Godwin was playing, we'd say Bell 100% easy, right? We'd say it's easily Bell. Like Godwin only gets like 2 or 3 targets. Or Evans only gets like 2 or 3 targets when Godwin's out there. But now Godwin's not out there, so it's like, oh, maybe I have to play Evans again. This is a horrible spot to be in. I would personally start Bell. Maybe I'm overly optimistic on Bell against the Jets. I just can't trust Evans. I can't. I know there's no Godwin, but Gronk is starting to get more involved, right?
True.
And we've seen in games when Godwin's not out there, like Scotty Miller's involved, like other guys will get involved. So I'm still worried about Evans not getting, even in the games where Godwin's been out, he's really been living off of touchdowns, which is great. I mean, he can certainly score a touchdown. He's a big body down there, so Brady likes that. But with Gronk starting to get touchdowns too, I'm really nervous that if he doesn't catch a touchdown this week, he's only going to get you like 8 to 10 points, even in PPR, which I think Bell can do for sure. So I still would prefer Bell. But yeah, it's a lot closer. It's a lot closer than it probably should be. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing with Evans. He could get you nothing, or he could get you 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say. I think because Godwin's out, that's why I have Evans a little higher, maybe higher than some of the other rankers. But yeah, I would take the chance, because again, and this is kind of more of a philosophical thing, is what do you go with? You got the guy who you think will get you at least a few points and has a chance for a big game, or the guy who has a chance for a monster game. It's a little more risky. So I usually shoot for upside. That's just me.
Yeah, that's true. Evans does have plenty of upside, but man, he scares me. Like he scares me in the way where it's, it's like midway through the fourth quarter and you're staring at that 0 and he's got like 1 target and you're like, why did I start Mike Evans?
It very well could happen.
Right. So yeah, that's where we're at, I guess, with those two. Well, that was it for the questions. No other questions so far. So I guess it's a short show today. Appreciate everybody.
Yeah, guys, if you have more questions, you're watching right now, you have any questions at all, as far as, who to start, who to sit, anything about a player that we've talked about, let us know. We're still here. Of course, follow on Twitter. We've got at Endgame Fantasy. You can follow each of us. I am at Roto_Chef. Chris is at Chris Mangano. And we'll be here. Check out, like I said, all those other episodes. We're going to talk about the trade deadline and some of the players that could move, how that might affect, players for fantasy. We do start sit, of course, every week. Must starts and must sits. We'll see if those come to fruition. We're going to watch right now. And what else? Waiver wire is coming out tomorrow. It'll be interesting. I really think this is going to be an interesting week for the waiver wire, because even if there's only a couple of trades made, those little minor moves have that ripple effect that could really, impact a lot of teams. So there's that. All right, Chris, what else we got? Any other questions? Last minute questions? Everyone's set with their lineups?
Everyone's set, I guess. Everybody's ready. Everybody's confident.
Good. All right, well, we'll be available, like I said, the next hour or so to answer questions right up until kickoff. So catch us on Twitter. All right, and don't forget, if you haven't already, hit subscribe, hit that little bell notification afterwards. You can catch us when we're live, anytime something's published right away. All right, and if you like this, give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. Thanks to all our viewers, and spread the word. If we helped you in any way, again, that's our end game, if you will. That's our goal. Oh wait, I forgot. There's one last thing. How could I say? Who's in and who's out? You know who's in today? Who's definitely playing? Who's starting? By the way, you know who's starting. Number one, baby. That's right. It's 2 a week. He's starting. Don't start him in your fantasy team, but this is the day where he makes a name for himself. The next great Dolphins quarterback, meaning the only great one ever since Dan Marino. So,
how excited are you to see Tua in his first start?
You know, and usually I'm sitting at a Red Zone channel, right, and I'm watching because I want to see who scores. I want to see all the action. I actually, for this game, we'll probably just keep it on the Dolphins game for the most part, except for commercials. But yeah, that's one of those games, and you can't underestimate how excited everybody in Miami is. Truly, I think they said that not last week because they were on a bye, but when he came in for the last like 2 snaps of the game, the ratings for that last meaningless garbage drive for those 2 snaps like exceeded the ratings for like the World Series and for every other game in Miami in that market area. That's how excited people are. I don't underestimate this.
So. All right. Well, I hope he comes through. I mean, I hope he looks good, but at the same time, I hope he doesn't. Because if he does look good, I'm just going to always regret. Well, I won't. I guess I already do regret it, but always going to look back and think, why didn't Washington take Tua instead of Chase Young? But we'll see. We'll see how he looks.
Hey, if you know the season just turns out the way it does, and Washington gets a franchise quarterback next year, right? Whoever it may be, I don't think they'll get the number 1 pick. But you know, what if they get Justin Fields and he wants to being just as good or better than Trevor Lawrence? You don't know. Then you'll have your franchise quarterback and Chase Young.
Well, that's true. That's true.
I'm just saying it's possible. All right, guys. Well, that does it for Endgame Live. Thanks for those who watched, and happy late Halloween and happy early Day of the Dead.